Last week, I built an MVP and my clients loved it. That's the headline. I mean, that could be the whole video. Last time you guys saw my face, I told you that I was building a product to do essentially replace a sales enablement function in a company. The main value prop, the main problem I was trying to fix was how do you train your staff? How do you at scale listen to, hundreds of calls every week and pinpoint the problems with those calls and the opportunity for improvement for each of those reps who have a variety of different ways of pitching? So my idea was to put all of those calls together, create essentially a call database, then use that call database and say across all of the calls, who is managing this specific objection better? What works better? What has been tried? What works? What doesn't work for this one? So 2 weeks ago, I told you guys I was trying to build a product, and I did. I built an MVP. I had a version of something that I was proud enough to show some employees, and they gave me, I believe, the best feedback I could have gotten. They were super happy about it. They said it was super valuable, super helpful. They were just like, this is so awesome. And that really ended up my week. Like, I was like, yeah, I don't need to do anything else this week. This is as much validation as I needed. I've been trying to get in contact with people outside of that company to get more validation, more data sets, and that is ongoing. The process of building something that, was good enough for me to show was quite, unsurprisingly harder than I expected. The first reason for my failures was that I basically dumped all the calls, thinking the calls were going to be the source of truth. And then I forgot that salespeople are going to sell things that don't exist also. Um, so when I gave it the calls and I was like, cool, document XYZ, my documentation was full of mistakes. It was like errors on pricing, errors on integrations we weren't supporting, features we didn't have. And then I realized that in order to build the documentation, I had to build the documentation, which was the whole chicken and egg thing I talked about on LinkedIn earlier this week. So I basically took it upon myself to build the documentation. So by this, I mean, this is all the information we have on pricing. This is the current roadmap. This is the actual source of truth. These are the integrations we really do have. The ones that you cannot find here are not supported and shouldn't be referenced by salespeople. And by creating that layer of truth, I was able to then use that layer of truth to be referenced up against. And so when the calls are filtered and my AI looks through the calls, it could flag, hey, this guy is selling this integration we don't have. Because the main problem I'm having right now is I wouldn't say biased, but because I have a consulting role with that company, I know the company really well. So it gives me an edge that I probably wouldn't have with any other clients. And so when my AI started giving me a bunch of bullshit about pricing and integrations we didn't have, I was able to see it because I know the company and I know what integrations we have or not. And in any other use cases, I wouldn't be able to flag the bullshit, which is an issue because if your AI is starting to hallucinate a bunch of things, that's kind of like the opposite of what I want to provide. I want to have real, tangible, reliable information that's actually rooted in something real. I want to help salespeople be better at selling, so it needs to imply that I know the product in and out super well. The whole point of a sales enablement function is if you don't have the data and you don't have competitive analysis or, battle cards, I need to have them in order to generate something. Like I need to know who your competitors are. And so I think short term, I'm going to have to navigate that problem with the onboarding of new client manually by just doing that in order to create the truth layer, because a lot of them don't have it and it's a problem I'm trying to address. I just don't really I don't have a solution for that just yet, but I don't think that's like a big issue. I'm not seeing this as a can't move forward at all. Like, I'm actually quite excited to have a go at this. Like, the vision was really to have something that I could use ongoing. It's plugged. Like, the big picture is it's basically plugged with your dialers, and then it basically reviews the calls as the call come in. So every week you get new data sets. Every week you get new pieces of feedback. You're like, hey, you're dealing with that objection really well, but there's this thing that you keep doing. Like, a very specific example that came up is I was listening to a bunch of calls and reviewing a bunch of transcripts and realized a lot of my salespeople are saying, hey, this is X from that company. I don't know if you remember me. And I was like, why would you say that? Why would you give the option to a person to say they don't remember you? Like, how do you recover from that? No good way. You have to essentially pitch again. And so when I flagged this to them, they were like, "Oh, yeah, that's actually a really good point." And no one had realized, but some guy started doing it, and then the other guys heard him do it and just picked up on it. And now all my sales team is saying, "Hey, this is X. I don't know if you remember me." And so little tidbits like this that you necessarily wouldn't pick up on. The goal wasn't to have a grocery list either. We want to have something that's like digestible. And I was trying to really find a format that would be helpful. And the first few versions that I got were complete garbage. And I felt really much like in that point of the process when you're building something and they're like saying, if you were proud of the product that you launched with, you launched too late. And I was trying to remind myself of that when I was trying to come up with something that was a good format that had actually good and relevant and helpful information. And it took me a couple of attempts over a couple of weeks to get there, but I'm really happy with the version that I was able to get. And the salespeople were also really happy with it. So that's huge. I was also able to get my client onboarded as a design partner. So we're, finalizing the paperwork on that end, but that's also a major milestone. And I mean, at this point, pretty much all the lights are green, This is really good news for me. I'm really happy with the way things are moving forward. I don't have a product. Like, I wouldn't argue that what I've built is anything close to a product. It's more of like, a service that I sell disguised as a product, where I'm just trying to figure out how to solve the problem. What's the best method of doing it? And once I figure that out, then I will build a product. But at this time, I'm just really fidgeting something that can look good enough for a client to be happy. And then once I have those, I will build something. But at this time, it's like I'm just feeding stuff to Claude and running out of credit repeatedly. So when I started this, I gave myself a timeline of a month to figure out if this was worth looking into further. And this is basically what I was expecting to achieve in the first month, where I was basically just trying to educate myself on the space, learn where the gaps were, and figure out if I could provide just the tiny bit of value enough that someone would say, I would pay for this. That was the biggest milestone. Is there something to investigate here? I think now I could definitely say, yes, there is no doubt about it. I think the first version that I have, which is, 1% of the scope that I have envisioned, was already super helpful for my clients. And that's enough for me. As far as I'm concerned, all the lights are green. I'm good to keep moving on this. And I'm actually excited to keep moving on this. For the first time in a really long time, I've just been really excited so much that I kind of just want my kid to go to bed so I could start working again and push this further. And I've been navigating, the credits resetting after 5 hours. I was kind of fed up and I just decided to bite the bullet and pay for, the bigger Claude plan, which has been a godsend, honestly. I was wondering, I'm like, okay, what can I do this week? What's the single biggest thing I can do this week to move the needle? And I think the answer is to do what I've done last week for the SDRs, for the AEs. This doc that I did, I wasn't able to have all the call recordings for all the reps. So I was able to get the SDR ones, but not the AEs. And so I'm thinking if I can get all the recordings this week and generate the coaching sheet for my AEs and have more people give me feedback on the relevance of the information in this and like the packaging of it. That would probably be the next big thing. That and finding someone else to do it with. So I think I'm going to be a bit more aggressive this week with my outreach. I'm going to try and find a couple of more startups that I can talk to and hopefully talk to CEOs, because I've been talking to a lot of reps. I've been having a lot of feedbacks from the employees, which is all super positive, but no one is in a position to actually be like, I'm paying for this. I need to talk to heads of sales or CEOs of startups. So that's those are my two goals for this week. More calls, and then more clients. Hopefully, I think if I could get another design partner in like complete different company, that would be a really good point to start. I'm really excited about it. This video is coming out probably a bit later than the usual schedule because I'm filming this on Tuesday and it's supposed to go out tomorrow. And it's very unlikely that I will have time to edit and upload that between now and tomorrow. I was racing this weekend, trying to recover and get my brain back in. It's a bit harder than I was expecting. I did completely empty the tank and leave it out in the trails, which is something I'm very happy about. This is my new favorite video. And yes, this is absolutely me crying because I have nothing left to give.